Bruchim habaim. Welcome everyone to Hebrew College's 2025 Spring Gala. Yeah, we can do that again. Come on, guys. My name is Abby Oceans. I am a fourth-year rabbinical student here at Hebrew College. If we clap after every sentence, this is going to be a very long gala. This year, in addition to spending time with my remarkable classmates and teachers, it has been a privilege to play just a small role in the planning of this evening. Before we begin in earnest, I'd like to take a moment to thank our award recipients, both for their amazing work and for giving us a reason to gather and celebrate. I'd also like to thank our Board of Trustees, our host committee, and our event committee, without whom this evening would not be possible. We are so grateful for your generosity and your leadership. And, yeah, you could do that again, it's good. And I would like to thank all of you for being here, for your friendship, and for your support. As many of you know, we named this gala Braiding Hope. In a time when people are more scared and isolated than ever, it takes courage to see our futures as intertwined. Yet, we know that our world is brighter, stronger, and more brimming with life when we actively braid our communities and our destinies together. Tonight, we lift up those who take on this important work. It is now my pleasure to welcome back to the stage Rabbi Jessica Kate Meyer, Hebrew College's Rosh Tefillah and artist in residence, along with a number of very talented student musicians. Lyrics may be found in your program. Thank you so much.
ימי חורפי אהבתני עטה בבור ניטשתני
ימי חורפי אהבתני עטה בבור ניטשתני
הנחוש ושמחני דודי כמות עיניתני
הנחוש ושמחני דודי כמות עיניתני רד אבי אויבי ומשל לכל עם הייתי משל
רד אבי אויבי ומשל לכל עם הייתי משל
מבורדלי דל ונחשל עוד חייל כי דיליתני הנחוש ושמחני דודי כמות עיניתני
לכוחי למלכו ימים כי לא תזנח לעולמים
לכוחי למלכו ימים כי לא תזנח לעולמים
הן לי דיברת ניחומים אמצא חן כי ניחמתני הנחוש ושמחני דודי כמות עיניתני
חושה מהר להרגי בך פתחתי מושי
חושה מהר
להרגי בך פתחתי מושי צורתה בנתה לראי יוצר לב את חקרתני נחוש ושמחני דור דקמות הניתני זכורני ועמלי ושמרי ומעלי זכורני ועמלי ושמרי ומעלי אנה צורי גואלי כי כך אומר עשיתני אנה צורי גואלי כי כך אומר עשיתני
This is Naomi and Becky at Becky's ordination from Hebrew College. And when I saw this picture, I said, oh my gosh, look how happy Naomi is. Jinxed everything. So. My daughter, Naomi, came out in high school, and her dad and I said, well, we don't care. One thing that I really admire at Hebrew College is their openness.
It's intentionally pluralistic and sort of exuberantly pluralistic. We're really trying to create a learning community across difference.
I feel that for a college or a synagogue, you need the people and you need the programs, but you also need a comfortable space. It resonates with me when a space needs to be improved or fixed up.
Denise came in at a critical moment in our capital campaign for this new shared campus.
There's this arts program here, and there's Kesha, and there's an archive, and so I think that's a really brilliant model.
The particular award that she's receiving this year, which is the Bezalel Award for Leadership in the Arts. It feels like another gift that she's giving us is by allowing us to honor her for that work, for that leadership in the arts.
I think it's wonderful to be able to give back to education that has especially been resonant and important for your own family. Sometimes people ask me, well, how did you feel about Becky marrying your daughter? And I said, are you kidding? He was my first choice.
Becky was a rabbinical student here. He's really grounded in that love of learning and the process of personal growth and change. Our theme this year of Braiding Hope feels very deeply connected to Denise because it flows from the Jewish idea and the Hebrew term tikkun olam or litaken olam. It not only means to repair or to fix the world, but to braid. So it goes back to the theme of interconnection. We need to be weaving our lives together.
I like to think that many of us want to help, want to do the right thing. One thing that does give me hope is to see how well my daughter and son-in-law are doing as parents. that I feel I'm very, very hopeful for the next generation.
It's kind of beautiful to think that Denise's way of moving in the world, it, defines her philanthropy, but also really mirrors and sort of reflects so much of who we are and what we're trying to do here.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Wonderful, wonderful to be with you all here. I'd like to invite Denise's daughter, Naomi, to escort her to the bima to receive her award. So, you can come on. Denise, the award, as you know, that we're giving you tonight for leadership in arts and culture is named for Bezalel, the artisan who was charged with building the sacred Mishkan that accompanied the Israelite people in the wilderness. Here is some of what we know about Bezalel: that he was gifted, endowed with divine spirit, that he accepted the distinctive offerings of everyone in the community and made something beautiful out of them, that he had the capacity to pay attention to minute, divinely dictated detail, and at the same time to hold the vision of the whole, and that he brought healing to a world in need of repair and gave God a dwelling place on this earth, a home in the hearts of the people. You have called your foundation the Tikkun Olam Foundation, a way of expressing how deeply your philanthropy is guided by a desire to bring healing and repair to the world. You have an expansive view of what this means and how to do it. One of the things that moves me most is the way you gravitate toward giving to the unseen, unglamorous needs of organizations. The synagogue in need of an elevator, the building in need of a new roof, the cemetery workers in need of relief during the pandemic. This is Tikkun Olam in both a deeply practical and a deeply principled sense. Practical because you understand what it takes for an organization to run responsibly and well. And principled because you understand what's at stake in those hidden needs: accessibility, safety, shelter, appreciation for those whose work often goes unacknowledged. Again and again, you quietly ask, what is in need of fixing and how can I help? As our theme for the evening evokes, tikkun can mean not only repair, but braiding hair, braiding challah, braiding hope. Braiding is such a loving and tender image, and an image, I think, of patience and of care. Some might suggest that dedicating yourself to justice and dedicating yourself to beauty, to the arts, are separate, somehow distinct, even at odds. I feel like you understand intuitively, deeply, how intertwined they are. Artistic expression, music, song can open our hearts and awaken our souls in ways that intellectual study alone cannot. It can help us feel connected to each other and to a greater wholeness, something so deeply needed in our communities and in our world right now. Elie Wiesel spoke about this eloquently through the following teaching from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. Wiesel said, "When two people speak simultaneously, there is dissonance. But when they sing together, there is harmony. When the world loses its ethical compass, it needs beauty to recalibrate. When words fail, what is left to us but to sing?" Denise, we're taught that the blessing offered upon the completion of the building of the Mishkan by Bezalel was Yehi Ratzon Shetishre Shechina b'maaseh yedechem. My blessing for you tonight. May you continue to create a dwelling place for the divine presence on this earth through the generous and loving work of your hands. Thank you so much. We continue now with our next award, the Ledor Vador Award, and I'd like to ask David and John and Rachel Teplo to come forward to represent the Teplo family for the receiving of this award. Torah teaches us again and again that our journey does not begin or end with our own lives. Our parents, our horim, are also our harim, the mountains from which we are hewn. In ways that we can't even begin to fully understand, we are part of something larger, older, deeper, and more enduring than ourselves. One feels this truth so powerfully when contemplating the legacy of the Teplo family. I am humbled to present you and your family with Hebrew College's Ledor Vador Award for Intergenerational Leadership. Your grandfather, Harry Savitz, physician and Hebrew scholar, was elected president of the Hebrew Teachers College in 1956. The sense of responsibility that he felt, both to Jewish scholarship and to the Jewish people, is eloquently captured in his 1938 article entitled, quote, "The Role of the Jewish Physician in the Progress of His People." After an impressively comprehensive review of the history of Jewish physicians, he wrote the following closing words, which moved me so much. He said, "When the student of history confronts these intellectual giants, this feeling of pride gives way to one of humility and meekness." Indeed, that is precisely how I feel when confronting the giants of your family, who have so profoundly shaped Hebrew College and shaped our community. Your great uncle, Nathan Friedman, was a Hebrew College trustee and played a pivotal role in the history of the college when he and his wife named the beautiful building at 43 Hawes Street in Brookline. Your Uncle Dewey was a quiet hero who led the operation in the United States to acquire boats, including the Exodus, to bring Holocaust survivors into Palestine and was instrumental in creating the Weizmann Institute of Science. Speaking of giants, although he was apparently only 5'4", it's very comforting, I read one remembrance that described the scene whenever he would enter his synagogue in Brockton. Quote, "The rabbi would stop talking. The cantor would stop singing. Everything would stop until he was seated." And of course, I can't think of anyone who more fully embodies the essence of a Shem Tov, a good name, than your father, Ted. His name is universally spoken with warmth, reverence, and respect, and his reputation endures at Hebrew College and throughout the community as a leader of unfailing commitment, integrity, and kindness. I'm not sure I've ever heard his name mentioned without being followed soon after by the words, "a true gentleman." The French Rabbi Delphine Horvieux offers the following striking insight into the phrase "le dor vador." Although we translate dor as generation, she notes that it is actually related to the action of weaving a basket. She writes, quote, "A basket is always made from the bottom to the top, and a generation, a dor in Hebrew, is a strand of the basket. It relies on the strength of the preceding row and anticipates the consolidation of the next." The Teplo family basket is a strong and beautiful one. May you continue to go and to grow from strength to strength, midor ledor, as you weave new strands into your basket. I'd like to invite now all the generations of the Teplo family who are here tonight to come join us on the bima as we offer this award. Please come forward. And I think we have a little bit of a family slideshow just to give you a glimpse of some of those generations that I was talking about. Please join me. And now it's my honor to welcome Rabbi Mark Baker, CEO of Combined Jewish Philanthropies, to the bima.
Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Mazel Tov, Denise, and thank you for your passion and your creativity and the mark you've left on this holy building. And what a privilege it is for me to be here to honor Ted Teplow and the Teplow family. I have to say, every time I spend with any generation of that family feels like I am learning about, bearing witness to, and experiencing Jewish history. And I'm eager to learn from and to be part of the powerful and memorable conversation we're going to hear in a few minutes between two good friends and extraordinary leaders, Dr. Judith Rosenbaum and Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. Mazel tov to both of you on your awards, and thank you both for your vision, your courage. It is always a joy to learn from you. So we just finished Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, and thank you to the musicians who ensured that we did so with joy. And these yoms have felt poignant and fraught this year for many reasons that I don't think I need to explain. It's the juxtaposition between them that feels so resonant and profound right now. The loss, trauma, and sacrifice that we honor on Yom HaZikaron, the return, the joy, the miracle of the restoration of our people in our homeland that we celebrate on Yom HaAtzmaut. Holding both of these together is so Israeli and so Jewish. Somehow we must find the joy, the sense of purpose and possibility, freedom and responsibility that Yom HaAtzmaut represents, and yet we cannot ignore the pain and the heartbreak upon which that rests. Striving to hold both has been one of the spiritual and emotional keys to Jewish resilience, surviving and thriving for thousands of years. And I'll say you can also feel the fragility of our people, our nation, and our social fabric right now. If you listened to any of President Herzog's remarks over the past week, over and over again, he's literally begging for unity. We cannot turn against one another and tear ourselves apart. We have got to reweave the ties that bind us and find ways to hold the diversity and complexity of our people and our world. We have to stay in what Parker Palmer calls the tragic gap between the way the world is and the way we know it can be, and we need to stay in it together. This is the moment we find ourselves in, and we will find a way forward, as we always do. And this is precisely why Hebrew College is such an important institution for our community and our future, and such a valued partner of CJP for so many years and so many decades. You teach a Torah of pluralism, compassion, community, of peoplehood that does not gloss over our differences, but engages and embraces them. You develop rabbis, teachers, and learners who love Torah and Judaism, who are what Rabbi Shai Held calls heart leaders, who are able to hold the juxtaposition of the yoms, who can stay in the brokenness of our world with the patience and hope to repair it. This is precisely the kind of Torah and leadership we need right now. Thank you to the leadership of Hebrew College and to all of you for supporting it tonight and always. I'm so grateful that we are braiding hope together. And now I have the honor of introducing, for a time such as this, a conversation about leadership, courage, and hope. We get to hear from Dr. Judith Rosenbaum and Rabbi Angela Buchdahl their wisdom and their personal reflections on leadership, both at this moment and in other moments in their lives. And it will be moderated by student Rafi Ellenson. Enjoy.
I think this one.
Erev Tov, everyone. Erev Tov. It's such an honor to be here with Dr. Judith Rosenbaum and Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. Yeah, give it up. I want to start with going off of something that Rabbi Mark Baker just said about sort of, I think, what distinguishes Hebrew College. And I think for me, over the past 5 years that I've been here, as I'm facing ordination in 24 days, I think it's not only about finding a way forward through compassion, but a way forward through relationship. And I think what's so remarkable about this conversation we're going to have now is that you two have a very long-standing relationship. I have a long-standing relationship, my family with Judith's family, and the three of us are all students of Rabbi Sharon Cohen Annisfeld from both your times at Yale and my time on the Bronfman Fellowship. And I'd love to just get a snapshot from each of you of what the relationships you've cultivated early in your life, how have those carried you through to this moment in your life now?
Okay, I can do it. First of all, Mazel Tov to you, and I just want to say the world is better with another Rabbi Ellenson in the world, so we're very thrilled about that. And I couldn't be more honored to be in this conversation with you, to be given an award in your father's name. It really, I burst into tears when Sharon asked me about it. And to be sitting on the stage, to be co-honored with Dr. Judith Rosenbaum, who I've known since I was 17 years old. We were not on the same Bronfman program. We were a year apart, but we then somehow boondoggled the second Bronfman summer when we were in college, and but we're friends in college, and then and your mother of blessed memory was my thesis advisor, and I took several classes with her. So talk about braiding. There is this deep sense. And then we were a senior and a junior in college when Sharon arrived, and opened up a whole new world of what it meant to learn Torah in a different way and to understand what charismatic rabbinic leadership looked like in a very different way. And truly. So, and then I saw Professor Judith Cates here, who was on my Bronfman summer, and I don't think I've seen her since I was 16. So that was like one of those, like, whoa, the blast from your past, and that was also just amazing. So, there's so many things. I would say that a big piece of my awakening when I got to college was a feminist awakening that was really shaped by so many people that I just mentioned. I kind of got to college and I thought, oh, this feminist thing, it's all done. We've taken care of everything. So for me, I was blind to the many ways that, like, there were still so many inequities right where I was. And taking my first class on women in Judaism was one of the first things with Dr. Hyman that helped open my eyes to the stories that were never told. And then having Sharon come and starting a Rosh Chodesh group, and then Judith introduced me to Rabbi Jackie Ellenson, who brought me to my first Women of the Wall in 1993 when nobody knew what that was. And so all of these things were part of the layering of my opening conception of what it is to be a Jewish woman and a Jewish feminist. So I feel very, very grateful to be part of this moment right now. Thank you.
I certainly feel the same. I feel like we could turn this into an episode of This Is Your Life rather than Braiding Hope. But I think that is such an important part of how we build hope, is that we continue to return to the same people who have taught us and who we have been on a journey with. And I think for me, when I think back to our time together at Yale, and also when you were in the first year of rabbinical school.
We were roommates.
And getting to learn with Sharon first as her student and then as her co-faculty in Bronfman, and now as colleagues across the hall, and just recognizing, being able to be on the inside of that learning experience and seeing how we are all always learning, having that modeled for me, that we don't have answers all the time. We are trying them out with each other, and we are learning them from each other. And we are supporting each other in those moments when one person's hope is flagging, the other person can lift it back up and inspire them. And so I think it's very much a collective project. And I think that part of some of my memories from those times that we shared were about how much each of us was coming to understand our Jewish selves and our, becoming adult selves, very much in our own independent ways, coming from different places and figuring out what kind of Jews we wanted to be and what kind of people we wanted to be in the world, but also doing it in the context of community and recognizing that we weren't alone in having those questions and having that it was a process for all of us.
I think some strands that I'm going to try to braid together in this moment. Thank you. A little bit of, I've heard a lot of things about building hope, always learning, community. I think something that I've found in my experience in rabbinical school, particularly learning at a pluralistic institution, is that so many of these key moments happen over lines of difference, differences of opinion, differences of background, whatever it may be. So I would love to hear from your professional lives of an example of a time where you had constructive engagement over difference in a way that didn't necessarily wound, but opened pathways forward.
So what's coming to mind for me is a course that we offered at the Jewish Women's Archive a few years ago called Beyond the Gender Binary, that was looking at thinking about how do we bring the lens of gender to the archive and think about gender in a more expansive way. And we had about 900 people in the course. And as I was watching the registrations come in, there were actually some people in this room who were in the course, and people were sending in messages about how excited they were. And some of the messages were coming from people who were saying, I'm so glad you're offering this because I have a lot of questions and uncertainties, and my grandchild is using they, them pronouns, and I don't know what this means, and I really need your help making sense of this. And then we had other people who were saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're offering this course because I'm a trans person and I'm looking for my ancestors, and this is going to be the chance for me to find them. And I thought to myself, woo, this is going to be an interesting project for me to figure out how to create and moderate a class that's going to give everybody what they need, because people are coming with such deep questions and desires, and how can we possibly offer something that will speak to everybody? And so I thought long and hard about the framing, and some of the framing was, what we would normally say around, coming with generosity and a learning framework, and creating a context of trust. But I really thought a lot about actually what we were trying to do in breaking down binaries. And I thought about the question of breaking down the binary between the head and the heart, or between the intellectual and the experiential, and thinking about what are the really deep existential questions that are underneath sometimes what seem like very theoretical or intellectual questions around. Certainly when we talked about the framing of the course, it sounded very theoretical. Ideas about theories about gender and how do we apply those to archives, not necessarily what people think of as like your gut questions. I'm a historian, so I do, but but most people don't think about history that way. But really these were deep existential questions about where do I belong? Who are my people? How are we going to survive? How am I going to survive? And to be able to cast that frame and say, these are the questions that we are sitting with, and I'm inviting you into those questions, and I trust that you can handle those questions and that we can be here for each other in those questions, I think was able to create a conversation where people could talk to each other across difference and be very generous with one another. And so it was one of those beautiful learning experiences where people in the chat were answering each other's questions and supporting each other and making space for that. And I learned so much from that and think about it frequently in so many of the other things that we teach now.
I appreciate your courage always, Judith. And I feel very blessed that Central Synagogue is a really diverse community, and it not just with things like demographics and class and neighborhoods in New York and everywhere else, but politically diverse. And I remember this was actually just a story from when Trump was voted as president the first time 8 years ago. And I remember that I had this woman, she traveled from Brooklyn to come to Central Synagogue, and she was a lesbian and had gotten married, and Central had inspired her to convert because she was not born Jewish. And so she was like a really devoted member of the community. But she came to me and she said, after the inauguration, she said, I am going to have to leave Central Synagogue. And I said, why? Why would you leave? And she said, well, I looked around. First of all, we didn't send buses to the Women's March. And then she said, and I looked around on Friday night and I just felt like these are not my people. And I first challenged her on that, and I said, you don't know what all these people are thinking. It's a very diverse crowd. But second of all, I said, I want you to think for a moment. I know that you could go to the synagogue that's close to your house in Brooklyn, and you could be in a community where pretty much everyone's politics are exactly the same as yours, and they are on the front lines of this, and I think that could be where you want to be. But we need you here, and I think that one of the problems for America and for the Jewish community and for democracy is that we leave those spaces where people who think differently than us are there. I said, I need you to stay here and be a part of this community, and to challenge people who might be from a different place to be in conversation, but maybe even more than that, to sit with them, pray with them, serve breakfast to homeless people together, and just know each other as human beings. So please do that with me. And I asked if she would be willing to start a core group. We have these small, like Havarot, for people who wanted to speak across lines of political difference specifically over that next year. And she stayed and she led that group. And for me, I think it's actually one of the most sacred things that we can do is to be able to hold that tent. We're very good about saying we hold a wide tent for a lot of things, especially if you come from a more progressive space. We're really great with LGBTQ and people of many races. We're actually less good at political difference oftentimes. That tent is not always open for people who are of a different political persuasion. And I understand that sometimes it feels existentially threatening, the other position, and around Israel as well. So I actually think it's a deeply sacred value for us to be able to see that as a value, that we can come to the table together, at the very least, to continue to see each other in our humanity across that difference.
Beautiful. I think so much of the work that you both are talking about as you answer that question is the work of love in many ways, that it's love enacted in the world. And I think it's fitting, Angela, that you're receiving the David Osmond Prize for Ahavat Yisrael, for love of the Jewish people. And, Judith, the relationship that you and my father had was a really profound one. And I think often of the line from Jewish tradition as I think about my father, that Ava mekalkelet tashura, that love disrupts the natural order. And I feel obliged to also mention that my teacher, my mom, says sometimes, well, maybe love is the natural order of things. So that's machloket, there's a discussion there to have. But I'd be curious to hear you both, perhaps in reflecting on the ways you knew my dad, or what it means to you to live in a legacy of enacting love as a Jewish leader.
So first of all, I want to say that having your father as a teacher and a friend was one of the greatest gifts, really, and your whole family. But one of the things one of the wonderful privileges that I had of many late night conversations with David was that I got to see some of the work that goes into creating the kind of Ahavat Yisrael that he modeled. I think because David was someone who overflowed with such a loving spirit, I think people thought it came very easily to him, and that maybe Ahavat Yisrael should come easily, and if it doesn't, well, then maybe it's not for me. And I think what I always saw with David was how hard he worked to cultivate patience and to listen and to show up. And that taught me a lot about the fact that it's work, and it's actually maybe not even about a feeling of love, it's about a stance of love. It's about coming into it to try to see things that way. And it also might not mean liking. It might mean just loving. In my work, I really try to do it by leaning into an expansive view of who the Jewish people are. When we talk about loving the Jewish people, who are we talking about? And really thinking as broadly and diversely as possible in doing that. And I find that for me, sometimes looking at the margins of Yisrael, of the people, is how I feel that I can put myself in there. And I think to myself also often, the questions I ask myself when I'm having trouble around Ahavat Yisrael are, I try to kind of interrogate that. And often it's either that I feel excluded in some way, or it's that I am feeling some resistance at being associated with some group of the Jewish people. And that feels to me like, okay, well then that's work that I have to do to figure out why that is. What is that about? Is it internalized anti-Semitism? Is it something else? And think about that as the kind of project that I need to do. And the last piece I would say is that I also think about what's at stake. Like, what are the forces that are trying to divide us, and who does it benefit when we allow those forces to win? And that sometimes helps bring me back to that stance of love, even if I am not quite there yet in my heart.
So the first time, I have a distinct memory, the first time I ever met Rabbi David Ellenson, I was 19 years old. We were on that boondoggle second summer in Israel, and we went to a restaurant down in Jerusalem, down off Ben Yehuda, and I was not telling people that I wanted to be a rabbi, even though I knew I wanted to be a rabbi from age 16, because the overwhelming answer I would get when I would say, if someone would say, what do you want to do? And I say, well, I want to be a rabbi, was, oh, are you Jewish? Or how are you Jewish? And I kind of didn't usually want to get into that conversation, but I remember saying it to David. He was a professor at HUC at the time, already had this legendary reputation, and he just gave the most, and we didn't know each other. He just knew that I was a friend of Judith, and he just gave the most supportive, loving response of, that is an amazing idea. You would be a great rabbi. And it was an immediate love. And this is kind of, I think anyone who ever met him knows that kind of embracing love that David gave you. It was the physical hug, but then the spiritual hug that he would give you as well. But I also experienced the fierceness of his love when it was harder, that when you love someone, you also stand up for them in a way. And I remember that this was one of the more painful chapters, that when I was named Rabbi of Central Synagogue, which was now 12 years ago, there was a very splashy and very ugly headline in a Jewish news publication with maybe the most unflattering picture that you could find of me. And it said, "It's official, non-Jews can be rabbis." And this was with the announcement that I was going to become the rabbi of Central. And I remember that David was so incensed, Rabbi Ellenson was so incensed, and so he stuck his neck out and wrote this long opinion piece and defended me and sent it to them. And for that, he was rewarded with being attacked as well by the same publication. And I remember that I wrote to him and I said, "I'm so sorry that you even got involved in this whole mess, David." And he goes, "You know what? I am very proud to be what was the word he used? Now I'm going to forget. But he basically said, I'm glad to be mudslinged in the same camp as you, Angela." And I just felt that sense of, like, at a time when I felt very vulnerable, that he just stood with me in such a way that was, and very publicly, which was so profound. And I will share one last piece, I think, of love, which is I wrote a memoir, which is something that I never thought I would ever do. And I quote your dad in the introduction, because one lesson that I remember of the many, many lessons he taught. But he said, all theology is autobiographical. And so it's a story that's really about spiritual teachings, but I wrote it as a memoir because he actually taught me that my life was the way that I was going to evidence God in the world and understand God in the world. And that, all the ways that we are known and loved and received in the world, those experiences become our view of God and our theology. And the fact that he took not just my life, but this is the way he treated everyone, that each one of our lives was an expression of God in the world. that's really what I took that teaching to mean, that we could walk in the way and express God, that was the profoundness of that. And so I think that I only had the courage to think that my life was worthy of putting in words because he helped me see that. So I don't know that there's a more profound sense of love.
I just want to close by really thanking both of you. I feel overjoyed, a little verklempt also that this begins my month leading up to ordination, and that I get to learn from the two of you as luminaries, as I, God willing, become ordained and God willing become a leader in my own right, that I can learn from both of your examples. So thank you so much.
We're going to introduce the song. Oh, is that okay? Is this still okay? I guess I'll come down here. So there's still just a little bit of sunlight, so we're going to count that it's still on Yom HaAtzmaut. And it felt that we needed to sing something to mark this day. It's so hard to feel like we would sing just a kind of traditional celebratory Yom HaAtzmaut song when Israel is at war still 19 months later, when literally the country is on fire in central Israel and so many people are evacuated, when people in this room are holding so many complex feelings. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago before we knew that Israel was going to be quite in the state that it's in right now, and selected a song, Ein li eretz acheret, I have no other land. It's actually not a song that a lot of American Jews know, but it is literally, it has been voted the #1 song in Israeli history. It beat out Hatikva and Erev Shel Shushanim. And Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, like the things that we think of as the top song. And I just want to give one window into this song and why it feels kind of particularly pertinent for tonight. It was written by Ehud Manor, who is a famous Israeli songwriter, and he wrote it after his brother was killed in the First Lebanon War, and he was so angry and so embittered. And he wrote this song, I Don't Have Another Land, as a protest song. And it was seen as so difficult for people to hear that it didn't get recorded for 4 years. And then Gali Atari, who was best known for singing that very happy Hallelujah and won Eurovision with that song, she then recorded this song, but she didn't record it as a protest song in anger or bitterness. She sang it as a love song, and then it was really popular. But the fact is that this song has been covered by more Israelis. There's literally an entire Spotify channel of different covers of Ein li eretz acheret that you can listen to. And the thing about this song is it can be what you need it to be right now. It can hold that anger and the pain and the despair, and it can actually hold the love and the hopefulness, and maybe actually you're feeling all those things at the same time. So it is what we need to hear today on this end of Yom HaAtzmaut.
אין לי ארץ אחרת, גם אם אדמתי בוערת, רק מילה בעברית חודרת אל אורכי, אל נשמתי, וגוף כואב ולב רעב, כאן הוא ביתי. לא אשתוק כי ארצי שינתה את פניה, לא אוותר להזכיר לה ואשיר כאן באוזניה עד שתפקע שתחדש ימיה עד שתפתח את עיניה.
In milim, as they say. I'd like to invite Rabbi Suzanne Offit to escort Dr. Judith Rosenbaum back to the bima. You can't leave and go talk to each other. You have to come out. Judith, you have devoted so much of your life as a leader, a scholar, a historian, a teacher, a mentor, and a writer to lifting up other women's lives. Tonight, we are honored and overjoyed to lift you up and to present you with the Esther Award for Courageous Women's Leadership. You have taught us again and again to pay closer attention to the whole of women's lives. So with this award, we honor you in Esther's name for the many facets of who she was. Not just the beauty queen who some of us dressed up as children. So Esther, who takes the risk of leadership, not because she's completely sure of herself, but because she feels responsible. Who is courageous, not because she's unafraid, but because she doesn't let fear hold her back. Who's called a prophet, not because she claims to hear the voice of God, but because she wraps herself in the Shekhinah and walks humbly with the divine presence right into the heart of the king's palace. For me, these qualities of steadfast responsibility, of courage, and of utter humility are among the qualities that make you such a beloved and trusted and respected leader. In addition to these qualities, I want to highlight 3 others, I can't resist, that I have admired in you since we first met, those more than 30 years ago, when you were a junior at Yale, I think, and I had just arrived, as you heard, I had just arrived on campus as a young Hillel rabbi. It really is one of the profound blessings of my life that we are still in each other's lives and have offices around the corner from each other on our shared campus here. So the first thing I want to highlight is your fierce commitment to honesty. I actually experience it not so much as a commitment, but as a condition of your being. Honesty, emotional, intellectual, spiritual honesty is at the heart of who you are and at the heart of who you invite others to be. For me, you embody Adrienne Rich's statement, which is both an observation and a summons. Quote, "When a woman tells the truth, she creates the possibility for more truth around her." Second, your commitment to honesty also entails, inevitably, a commitment to complexity. Again, in the words of Adrienne Rich, truthfulness anywhere means a heightened complexity. It isn't that I have to understand everything or tell you everything at once, or that I can know beforehand everything that I need to tell you. It means that we're both trying to extend the possibilities of truth between us, the possibility of life between us. To read your writing, to hear you speak or teach, even to have a casual passing conversation with you, is to be invited into this embrace of both honesty and complexity. And finally, in the spirit of tonight's gathering, your words, your leadership, your friendship give me hope. And as you were alluding to, I'll say it's the only kind of hope that makes any sense to me these days. It's not hope that is rushed or facile or forced, but hope that is honest and complex and humble and tender, and always, always extends the possibility of life between us. For all this and so much more, we thank you and wish you Mazal Tov, and may you continue to show us all what it looks like when chesed and emet, when kindness and truth walk hand in hand. And now I'm going to invite, let's see how we do this. Rabbi Jackie Ellenson is going to escort Rabbi Angela Warnick-Buchdahl to the bima, and Rabbi Or Rose is going to come up unescorted, I think it's okay, to just briefly introduce our inaugural Rabbi David Ellenson Memorial Award. So, yeah, you can sit, I'll sit with you, and
I'm deeply honored and humbled to introduce formally the Rabbi David Ellenson Memorial Award. It is a bracha, a blessing that Rabbi Jackie Ellenson is here with us, and that you had the honor to hear from Erev Rav, soon to be Rabbi Rafi Ellenson. At this point in the evening, it goes without saying that Rabbi David Ellenson of blessed memory was a multi-talented Jewish religious figure, a generational figure, in fact. His native intelligence, textual erudition, and strategic thinking allowed him to excel as a scholar, rabbi, teacher, and institutional leader. However, as my son Aviv said it several years ago, David's superpower, as you already heard, was his compassion, his tender-heartedness, chesed in Hebrew. And as you heard, his was not a Pollyannish or saccharine kindness, but a strong and resilient grace that he worked to refine throughout his life. My family and I were fortunate enough to experience David's abundant kindness over many years, but no more so than when he lived with us on a part-time basis for 3 years. Following David's retirement from Hebrew Union College, he served as a faculty person and director of the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies at Brandeis University. Perhaps the best illustration of his superpower that I can share was the weekly ritual that Rabbi Ellenson created with and for my children, then ages 8, 9, 10. Knowing that his twins, Ma'ayan and Aviv, craved individual attention from the adults in their lives, David decided that he needed to take each of them separately to In a Pickle. Theirs and his favorite local diner for pancakes, waffles, whipped cream, chocolate sauce, all before 9 a.m. Every week, the twins would negotiate who would go to breakfast with Uncle David on Tuesday and who on Wednesday. When David passed, I was standing at the corner of Kovshei Katamon in Jerusalem. And immediately the following brief Hasidic story came to mind and heart. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel of Apt, the namesake of the great 20th century figure, Rabbi Dr. Abraham Joshua Heschel, was renowned among Hasidim for the efficacy of his prayers. And so a group of Hasidic colleagues went to the Rebbe of Apt, wanting to understand the secret of his success. The Apter explained that he believed that this success was attributable to a simple interpersonal ritual that he carried out daily. Every morning he arrived early to his shul, to his shtibel, his synagogue. He stood in the courtyard, waited for people, and welcomed them. If an individual was experiencing any kind of pain or sorrow, he committed himself to lessening that burden by placing some of that pain on his own heart. And when it came time for the Apter to lead his community in Shachris, he said, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Harachaman, the compassionate one, looked down on this poor, broken-hearted Jew and had no choice. He was compelled to show him mercy. It's no wonder that the Rebbe of Apt is known throughout the Hasidic world as the Ohev Yisrael, the lover of all of the people of Israel. Rabbi David Ellenson, Uncle David in our house, was also a lover of Israel and of humanity. Throughout his life, he sought to comfort, support, encourage, and challenge others. When David's heart gave out, I know that it was full to the brim with empathy. May the memory of this compassionate, loving, inspiring person continue to move us to enact chesed in our lives.
I just want to say, Jackie, Rabbi Ellenson, it's such an honor to have you with us here tonight for this. Really, thank you. And Angela, there really is no one I could imagine as a more fitting recipient for this inaugural David Ellenson Memorial Award for Pluralism and Ahavat Yisrael. Both you and David have been passionate and eloquent advocates for an inclusive vision of Jewish life, for the importance of Israel as the homeland of the Jewish people, for the imperative of listening to multiple perspectives on a wide range of issues. But for me, there is a similarity between you that runs even deeper. You understand intuitively, as we've already heard how much David did, that the beating heart of belonging is love. Speaking to our rabbinical school community on David's first yahrzeit, Rafi described a Friday morning when his parents came to visit preschool. And I quote, "Sitting on my dad's lap, clutching my mom's hand, I was thrilled to have the chance to share my beloved Shabbat and my beloved parents with this small community. We chanted Shalom Aleichem, blessed each other, and my dad made Kiddush in his lilting tenor voice. And we sang one of my favorite Hebrew songs because Hanukkah was coming. Banu choshech legaresh, biyadenu or va'esh, kol echad hu or katan, v'kulanu or itan. Each of us alone is but a small light, but together our light is strong." Franz Rosenzweig, in an essay that I'm obsessed with, offers a beautiful invitation to Jewish belonging when he writes about the, quote, gentle push we give ourselves when in the confusion of the world we once quietly say, "We Jews." And in that expression commit ourselves to the eternal pledge that, according to an old saying, makes every Jew responsible for every other Jew, end quote. We both know that the act of saying "we Jews" can be complicated and fraught. But like Rosenzweig, I want to say that you and I think David share an understanding of belonging that is so deep and supple and tinged with wonder. For both of you, "we Jews," in my experience, has never been a slogan to be shouted. It is a bedtime story. It's a lullaby. It's a whisper. It's a prayer. It's a song. Since you and I first met, now you know, over 30 years ago, the whole story, you have become one of the most visible public faces of Jewish life in North America. You have lit Hanukkah candles at the White House with the Obamas and some others, and the Bidens. You've been the answer on Jeopardy to the question, what is a rabbi? That's just amazing. Your synagogue is a thriving community. Central Synagogue in New York is a thriving community with a wait list of over 1,000 people. It's a lot of people. Not because they want to turn them away, but they want to bring them in responsibly and well. I've seen you bring comfort to hostage families in Israel, and you have brought hope to countless Jews for whom your leadership has said clearly, you belong. You teach a vision of belonging that begins and ends in love. The love of your own parents, your secular, deeply identified Jewish father, and the love of your deeply spiritual Buddhist mother, who together raised you to know unequivocally that you are a Jew. And the love of God, who you sang to on the swing set and prayed to at bedtime each night, and who you've helped so many others connect to in their own way. My bracha, may you continue to teach and to speak and to sing us back to belonging again and again to each other and to God in love.
Most beautiful blessing.
And now I think it's time of the honor of inviting to the Bima the chair of the Hebrew College Board of Trustees, Nancy Belsky, and another one of our, oops, I messed up. And Lori Garnick, another wonderful, wonderful trustee.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lori Garnick, a proud member of Hebrew College's Board of Trustees. First, congratulations to all of tonight's incredibly deserving award recipients. Your passion and dedication inspires every single one of us here. I've had the privilege of learning at the college for many years and of being a part of this extraordinary adult learning community. And it's a true joy to be here tonight surrounded by so many fellow learners and by cherished members of Hebrew College's diverse and vibrant community. Before we move on to our final musical performance that will usher us into dessert, it is my pleasure to introduce my friend, our visionary, authentic, and always present board chair, the one and only Nancy Belsky.
Thank you, Lori Garnick. Thank you so much. Thank you for braiding hope with us this evening. Thank you for your presence and your purposeful philanthropy. Speaking about philanthropy propelled by passionate purpose, recently, Hebrew College trustee Susan Schechter and her husband Bob stepped up to the philanthropic plate, pledging a $500,000 challenge grant to endow student scholarships. Susan and Bob made their gift in honor of Rabbi Sharon Cohn-Anisfeld, a beloved teacher, inspirational leader, and the best at giving blessings to honorees. During the coming months, Hebrew College leadership will identify opportunities to match this generous grant and more scholarship support for the next generation of Jewish leaders, because it's vitally important for our community. I'm going to just take a quick walk over to Susan and Bob to thank them for their bold vision for this very critical philanthropic gift. We are thrilled to have surpassed our $250,000 goal for this evening's gala. Thanks to all of you. Now, what is a gala without an additional invitation to make a gift, right? Our goal tonight is to raise an additional $36,000 double high in the room, all of which will be directly to support much needed student scholarships. Inside your program book is a pledge card to support our scholarship fund. I'd like you to take a moment to reflect about this evening and the impact it had upon you. I'd also like you to think of a teacher or leader who has really made a difference in your life. My person is my father. Mark and I have completed our card and invite you to participate. At the reception, look for me. I'd be happy to take your card, thank you, and enjoy dessert after this final short musical finale.